Hey everyone, and welcome to Three Black Women and Their White Coach,
a podcast where we have a conversation around navigating race in the coaching industry.
And we're your hosts.
I'm Catrice Stetson, your mixed-race internet bestie and serial entrepreneur who's built multiple businesses from the ground up.
And I'm Brianna Lachelle, your biracial nonprofit coach whose focus is on helping support nonprofit leaders and founders create impact-driven organizations that radically change their communities for the better.
Here at Three Black Women and Their White Coach, we dive into hard conversations centered around racial inequity within the coaching space with softness and grace.
Our hearts are to open up these conversations and create a safe space for people to be seen, learn, and create a better, more inclusive environment for all.
So pull up a chair, your favorite snack, and a bevy while you yap with your new biz besties as we work to make the coaching industry a place where we all feel welcome and respected. Some of us didn't grow up with long lectures or drawn-out explanations. We grew up with one sentence and a look, and somehow that was enough. At the time, a lot of it didn't even make sense. You'd hear something, get corrected, maybe take an attitude about it, and then later, sometimes much later, you realize exactly what they meant. And usually it was because you learned the lesson the hardest way. Because those phrases weren't random. They weren't just things that people said to be funny or dramatic. They were lessons. They were warnings. They were a way of passing down experience without having to explain everything in blunt, utter detail. So today we're talking about Black sayings, the phrases that raised us, corrected us, and shaped how we think, how we move, how we respond to the world around us. And while a lot of these things have made their way into mainstream culture and get laughed at or turned into memes, what often gets missed is the meaning behind them. These aren't just catchy one-liners. They're rooted in lived experience and in the kind of wisdom that was built to be understood quickly and remembered.
Before we get this conversation, we want to set the tone for how we're going to approach it. This episode might feel lighter at times, and there's definitely humor in a lot of these sayings, but underneath that humor is culture, history, and real lived experience. We're not just repeating phrases for entertainment, we're unpacking where they come from and why they've stuck for so long. We're speaking from our own experiences, not as a representation of every Black household or every version of these sayings. There's nuance here. Like always, and different families, regions, and communities may use these phrases in different ways. This also isn't about gatekeeping language or saying who can and can't use certain phrases. It's about understanding context, because it's one thing to repeat something that you've heard, and it's another to actually understand the lesson behind it. So as you listen, we're inviting you not just to laugh or recognize a phrase, but to really think about what it's meant to teach and what it says about the culture it came from.
So for this episode, it's a little different. It's not like we have a long, lengthy definition and history for these sayings. We're going to unpack some sayings, but to define things a little clearly as we dive into this episode, we are looking at Black sayings in terms of short, culturally rooted phrases that carry lessons, warnings, humor, or correction that are passed down through oral tradition rather than things that you're going to read in a textbook. And key distinctions is that these aren't just like slang or jokes. These are compressed life experiences. So we are, like Brianna mentioned, you're going to recognize some of these phrases. And what, like I said, some of them have made it definitely to mainstream culture. But there is experience there. There are lessons and warnings. And that's kind of, what we wanted to bring forth in this episode.
Yeah. And I think it's always important, especially as we work to make more inclusive spaces, both for, just ourselves in general, but also our coaching containers. I think it's really important to kind of understand the background to some of these things to really connect, just like we were talking about last episode. The more that we're able to truly understand where something and someone is coming from, the easier it is to make space for them and for them to feel welcome and like truly a part of what you're building.
Yeah. So the first one, I kind of talked about this in this last episode, but the make it make sense. So oftentimes it's really easy to take that as frustration and confusion and maybe a little bit of that just does not add up. But ultimately what it comes down to is please explain yourself more clearly. Like this is an opportunity for deeper understanding. your logic isn't making sense and something is inconsistent or you're actually contradicting yourself. I find
Mhm.
that I use this phrase a lot. I also hear a lot of people use it as well. How about you, Anna?
Yes, I say make it make sense all the time, especially in situations where I'm like frustrated or like someone has maybe done something that they distinctly told me they weren't going to do. And I'm like, baby, make it make sense. What are you doing? I say it in my mothering a lot. Like when my daughters are trying to be sneaky and I'm like, baby, make it make sense to mama because that's not adding up. So it's really, I think on the surface, like you said, it's really, you can look at it as somebody being frustrated or confused, but it's also giving someone an opportunity to really think about what they're saying and maybe retract or like go back and fix their logic. It's almost a nice way of catching someone maybe in a lie or in a not truth and be like, make that make sense to me, to be like, hey, that's not what
Yeah.
you said before. Let's like rewind and see what's actually going on.
Yeah. I find that I use
Friends, thanks
make it
so
make
much for
sense a
joining us
lot
today.
when
We've
I'm
loved getting to
doing
spend this time here with you,
consulting
but don't let the
slash coaching.
conversation
We'll
stop
have
here. Drop us a
clients
message or connect
come
with us
and
on social
we'll be
media.
office
All the
hours and
details
green
can be
lights
found in
related
the
to
show
the
notes.
program that I
Along
run,
with some
and like
great
they will be
resources to
rattling
help you
off
on this journey
something
of helping make the
about
coaching
client
industry
situation
more
that came
inclusive.
up
Until next time, we're three
or
Black women
And their white
whatever.
coach, doing
And
the work,
my
holding the
thoughts will
space,
always
and
be
building
like, make
something
that make
better.
like, please take a second to think about what you just said. Like recently I had a client who she was like, hey, I got this opportunity. Someone like I'm already booked for the state, but I got this really amazing opportunity. Should I cancel this other booking and take this new opportunity? And I was like, make that make sense. Like, let's
Why would
logic
you do
that.
that? Yeah.
Like, think about that. Think about
Mhm.
what, like, did you hear what you said?
Mhm.
I hear you. I hear the excitement, but how would you feel? Like, let's take a
Yeah.
second and, that holding people accountable to the consistency, like, make them, like, would you do that if, for any opportunity? Or that, because this is very shiny and exciting, these types of things, how would you feel in that situation? But I think that like it's about discernment and clarity. It's that opportunity. Like literally what you said, this wasn't necessarily a fibbing situation, but like a pause, hold the phone, make that make sense.
Yeah.
Like please logic the way to why that like rationalize that.
Yeah, like holding them accountable. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's like really that like not accepting at face value. Like, okay, cool, like that was nice. What's the logic?
Right, right. And so I think that's just an easy one. And I think that it's something that's made its way into the mainstream. And I think most people could probably understand the concept, but it's really just the like deeper meaning of it. I really think is just telling you to make sure that you're holding people accountable and not accepting things at face value. So I really think that the underlying message of that saying is to remind you like, hey, is that actually what this is? Like, is that something that you should take at face value? Should you ask more questions? Are you holding yourself and the people around you accountable for what they said that they were going to do? So another Black saying that we wanted to talk about is fix your face. And this is something I'm constantly doing because I am a victim of RBF. And my mouth might not say what I'm thinking, but my face will. And so I am constantly either telling myself to fix my face, telling people in my life to fix their face. And so when you hear that initially, it sounds like an immediate correction. But what it actually means is your facial expression is saying more than what your words are. And so you need to adjust your attitude before it becomes a bigger issue. And this can be like something that happens all the time. I am really good about being politically correct, but if there's something that I think is wrong or makes me angry or is just like, are you serious right now? My face will tell you. If you ever want to know what I'm thinking, be sure to look at my face because I am constantly needing to fix it. So yeah, is this one that you use pretty
I mean,
often, Catrice?
I don't use this very often, but it's one of those I think I don't say it, but it's definitely what I am someone who like that internal
Mm,
fix your face, especially in an argument. I'll be totally candid. I am well, one, I was the kid growing up that if I was getting spanked, I laughed. I
oh,
smiled, and my dad was do you want me to give you a reason to laugh? Like, do you want
right.
a reason? Like, I'll show you what's funny. And I'm like, so in arguments, it's always like the times, arguments, funerals, times where it is very serious, somber, and I'm just like big smile, grin from cheek to cheek, ear to ear. And I have to like constantly remind myself, I have to be like, fix your face, fix your face. And ultimately it like comes down to like your facial expressions say so much more to people than your words. It's the body language. And
Yeah.
it for me, like smile is something that like I don't think the situations are funny,
Yeah.
but something in my brain just registers. And so then I have to be like, fix your face. Like your facial expression is not portraying how you actually feel in this moment. You
Right.
need to correct yourself.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's also really important. So, for example, always trying to bring it back to like the coaching realm. If you are a white coach or a non black coach or consultant, or even just someone like in a group program, and you hear a black woman or a black person say, fix your face, it's usually a tone of like endearment. Like they're trying to help you out because they know historically and just scientifically, we know that nonverbal communication matters, right? And so, especially when you think about the history of Black people, nonverbal communication can matter just as much as verbal communication. And it's a matter of like safety. And so, a lot of the times, we will lovingly tell people, like, hey, girl, fix your face, because you're saying something that I don't think we want to get into this to this conversation or to this argument or whatever it is. And so just really wanting you to understand how you're presenting yourself and how that can impact situations. And I usually say it out of love, like, especially if it's somebody that I know. I say it to my friends and family all the time. I'm like, hey, girl, fix your face. Like, I know you're mad right now, but like, fix your face. Or, oh, I know that didn't make any sense. We're about to go talk about it in the car, but fix your face right now, because we don't want to go for tit for tat with somebody in this mall or at this job or whatever, you know? And so I think
Yeah.
just understanding where that is coming from a place of love and it's not an aggressive comment by any means, I think it's also really important piece of the conversation, because I think if you don't understand the context, something as blunt as girl, fix your face, it could be considered aggressive when it's not meant that way.
Yeah. It's that, hey, just so you know, I am picking up what you're putting down.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you want everyone to pick up what you're putting down in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And there is, again, it's also the context of knowing when to like let someone know, like when to let someone feel the feels and like
Right.
fully show that. And, but also there are situations, and we've all been in situations where you know you don't want to dive in deeper to something. And someone saying, hey, fix your face is that I know you don't want to get in a fight right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know that's not what you're wanting in this moment. Let's like step outside.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And then we can chat. Let's get in the car. Let's drive
Mm-hmm.
off. We'll chat. But like, just be aware that even though you may be saying, also, you know, the awareness of you may be saying one thing, but your face is telling a different story. And
Mm-hmm.
so, you know, yeah, just the awareness piece for sure.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it helps you come back into your body, right? Sometimes I don't realize what my face is saying if I'm frustrated or if I'm really upset. And sometimes that's like a good check for me. Like, hey, girl, you're talking a good talk, but I can tell that you're upset. And if I can tell, other people can tell. So if that's not the message that you're wanting to display right now based off of what you're saying, you need to check the rest of your body. And it kind of gives me a minute to come back into myself and be like, deep breath. Okay, let's figure this out. What's the next move?
You're like, let me ground for a second.
Let me
All right,
listen.
Brianna, you have to introduce the next saying. I know that this next saying in our notes, guys, like Brianna has to introduce it.
So the saying says a hard head makes a soft behind. But how I heard it growing up is a hard head makes a soft ass. And it was usually coming from an adult, like a grandmother, my mother. And it's a warning. And it's a warning that you only ignore once. Okay. Because what it's really telling you is that if you don't listen, you're going to learn the hard way. And the hard way might result in a whooping. It might result in some rough consequences that you don't want. And so it's really telling you that the consequences is going to teach what the instructions couldn't. So if you can't get it from listening, if you can't do what I said the first time I said it, the consequences of not doing that is going to teach you this lesson that you're about to learn. And I think that it's so funny. And like in a professional setting, I don't know that I'd ever use this one, but it's definitely like I think the context matters and it sounds really harsh, but I think the history and the I guess like the knowledge behind it is really rooted in love, right? Like it's like a check to say, "Hey, I've asked you this multiple times. I've told you this multiple times. I'm trying to help you so you don't have to learn this hard lesson." And it's a check for it alerts your mind like, "Oh, I'm doing something that I shouldn't be doing," or "Hey, me and whoever that I know or love and trust has already given me these instructions. If I don't get it together, it's going to get me together, and I don't want that." So let's like figure it out.
Yeah, let's get it together. This isn't one that I heard growing up necessarily. But I remember like going through and you had noted you're like, this is definitely one I want to talk about. I'm like, sure, will this be used in a professional setting? Probably not.
No.
But I do think it is that like warning piece of, hey, something's not clocking. I just imagined your littles. To clock it. But it's like something's not clocking and you need to like lock the fuck in
Yeah.
because a hard consequence is coming down the road.
Yeah. And I think it's important to recognize that I think what happens a lot with these sayings is they sound so harsh, right? Like when you hear fix your face, a hard head makes a soft behind, any of this, make it make sense. It can feel so harsh and intimidating, but and I think that that's
Yeah.
what people originally think of when they hear it. They think of like that hard exterior. But what we really want you guys to understand is that there's a hard exterior that's hiding this like really intentional caring middle. And if you can pause enough to let the hard kind of pass through you and then really try to understand what the actual message is, then you're able to relate so much more to the people saying it because you recognize that they're not saying something to you just to be a jerk. They're saying something because they actually care about you and want to see you succeed. And so they're trying to give you wisdom the only way that they know how.
And I think looking, when we look at these are sayings that have been passed down, there's not always time. There's a time and place for a long explanation. There is not always a time and place for a long explanation. Sometimes you need a quick one liner. You need something that's going to get the message across. And so it feels harsh. It feels short, but like it's like, hey, I need to let you know something. I'm warning you of something. Something is coming.
Mm-hmm.
You need to situate yourself, regulate yourself, be aware of what you're saying, get your logic correct because someone else is around.
Right, right. Yeah.
All right, our next one is a favorite of mine. It's everything that glitters ain't gold. The first thing that I feel like I've read a few times throughout my life, but the first time that really I took it in was I was 22. So this was about 4 years ago. I was 22. I was sitting in my boss's office. This was when I was working a 9 to 5. And if you aren't aware of this, my husband and I met while we were working together. And my boss said to me, I was like talking about, I have an ex fiance. I was talking about my ex fiance at the time we were together. He was like, Priest, I just want you to like everything that glitters ain't gold, but gold is sitting out on the lifeguard chair. Little did he know Reese and I already had like, this is a whole story for another time. You'll have to shoot me a DM to find out like the story of how Reese and I came to be. But Reese and I had like a secret love affair. My ex-fiance was not a fabulous person. But my boss was literally hinting and being like, hey, there's a man who loves you. I see it, other people see it, and he is sitting out on the lifeguard chair. And like really what everything that glitters ain't gold means is just because something looks good doesn't mean it is good. And that is like the situation that I was in a really it was a terrible situation. It was a very toxic relationship with my ex-fiance. And like, face value on paper, we could have had such an amazing relationship if there weren't all these things happening under the surface. But like on paper, fabulous relationship. But like not everything that glitters is gold. And I remember like that hitting me so hard and knowing that was like the moment that I knew. I was like, his name was Josh. I was like, Josh and I are not, like, I already kind of had those like inklings, but I was like, yeah, the appearance is misleading. Like then on the outside, he looks like he was one of those people that if you met him, you're like, oh my gosh, he's so nice. He would never like harm a fly. But there were things happening behind closed doors. But everything that glitters ain't gold. But my boss was like, the gold is sitting out there on that lifeguard stand. I mean, now I'm married to that gold. But I find this to be that discernment and wisdom of being able to see and recognize when something is misleading, when something feels shiny and like, ooh, that sounds like a great idea, but is that actually the best idea? Mhm. Yeah, and I think with programs, but also like the people you follow on the internet. I mean, we all have those founders and creatives that we follow and we look up to, and we're like, oh, I can't wait to be able to have a life like theirs, to be able to have the access or opportunities or freedoms or whatever. And I think that like something, and this was something that I learned from a program that I joined where I thought it was gold and it was not. This was before Brianna and I met, even though that program was also a glitter. It was aluminum foil in the ocean for sure. But also the people. You We hear this time and time again. Social media is a highlight reel, but you don't truly know what is going on behind closed doors. And you can't confuse aesthetics with like true substance. And I remember like this coach that I invested in, I thought she had it together, like a TEDx talk and featured in Forbes and Huffington Post and all the things. I was like, I want that. I get out of her program 6 months later, she's burning everything to the ground. She's in debt. I'm finding out that she had to fire all of her team, that she's not able to pay her team. But I thought she had her shit together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that that's something that, like, that discernment in the online space of like are people talking the talk, or are they talking the talk and walking the walk, like the actual substance behind it? Like,
Yeah.
because everything that glitters ain't gold, and it's so easy to look at from an online presence and be like, oh my gosh, they have the life, but you have no clue what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah. And I think like that's just like a good life lesson to remember. But also I want to caveat that with doing your research and asking important questions. One, it doesn't make you a bad person or a difficult client. And if you're a coach that thinks that, then I think this is a good place for you to reflect, because if people are asking questions, that means that they're really committed to their investment. And if you're having trouble answering those questions, then that's a reflection for you to go do some deeper work, right? It's also, I also want to say that when it comes to this, we don't want to become negative, skeptical people, right? Like, I don't think that that's the goal of this saying. I think, especially the online space has had some highs and some lows, right? And I think we're definitely in the season where everybody's very skeptical. And I don't think that that's, I think that that's a protective thing, because people have gotten into programs and then with these like great coaches that looked great on paper. And then we find out that like they suck, or their program sucks, or they actually weren't doing all the things that they were talking about. And I think that the industry is kind of in a space where we're like, oh, nothing's real, like this is just crazy. And I think it's good to have discernment and to ask questions, but also to understand that there is good coaches out there who live their life like they say it, who run their programs like they say, who are successful and who have good knowledge to bring. And it's just our job as consumers to do the research, and to ask the questions that we need answered. But it's not our job to vilify the entire space, because I don't think that that's helpful either, because there are good coaches.
Yeah.
It's just about us doing the work to find those good coaches and to find coaches and programs that align to what's really important to us.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I think that it's, I mean, right now we're in definitely a trust recession where there are so many people who do not trust the online coaching space, who do not trust coaches, who,
Mm-hmm.
when you use the label business coach, they're like, ew.
Yeah.
And I mean, that comes from a lot of hurt and a lot of pain and a lot of trial and a lot of error. But there are so many good coaches out there. It, but I do think that they're not always the loudest, the most shiniest on the internet.
Yeah.
And it takes like taking a second to be like, let me do some, ask some questions, do some research,
Yeah.
hop on Google and like really look into things before being like, oh, everyone is bad. You just haven't found. And usually the people who are the loudest, shiniest are always the best. That's not saying that they're always the worst, but they're, you know, it's like the rise of the Stripe notification screenshot.
Mm-hmm.
Just because they're saying that they're making tens of thousands of dollars, you know, where's the evidence to back such things up? And like, there are coaches who have that. There are also Facebook groups where people just send out the screenshots so people can use them. So it's like, you know, take that time to do the research.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. This last one that we wanted to talk about is watch your tone. So it sounds like a warning before an escalation. And what it actually means is it's not just what you said, it's how you said it. And I think that this is just a really important life one in general, too. I think it works for life and for business, is that um it doesn't matter, it doesn't always matter what you say, but it always matters how you say it. You could be giving someone the absolute worst news of their life, but if you say it in a way that is compassionate and caring and makes that person feel seen and heard and cared about, then that's a much easier, they're going to be more receptive to that than if you're a jerk saying the best news, right? And so I think it's always really important for you to be considerate and just like respectful. I don't think anyone likes being yelled at, so we should all make it a point not to yell at someone else. I think everybody wants to feel respected and to feel seen and to feel heard. And so I think it's a just good practice for us to do the same for others. And I think giving someone the courtesy is saying, watch your tone, gives them the opportunity to rewind a little bit before you both have to act out of character or before a situation goes somewhere that you don't want it to. um and so I think, yeah, that's it. Doesn't, like, it sounds aggressive, but it doesn't have to be aggressive if you don't want it to be. I think it's all about how you receive it and then what you do with the information that that person is telling you. It's like that person's telling you, like, hey, you got a little bit too much dip on your chip, and so it's your job to take some said dip off, right?
Yeah, I think it's that sensitivity to the communication dynamic. Like thinking about this particular saying, I recently had an experience with a coach who kind of lashed out at me a little, and I, came back. I didn't say watch your tone, but I did send them a message later on being like, hey, that like made me really uncomfortable the way that you said it. And I think it's like remembering your intent versus impact,
Mhm.
and your delivery plays. Again, you can be saying the kindest thing ever, but if your tone is aggressive and almost gives like a malicious tone to it, people are gonna be like, "Whoa!" And I think that
Mhm.
like you know the way that this coach responded to me, being like, "Hey," kind of I like checked her as like that made me really uncomfy, and that was like not cool. And she was like, "That totally wasn't my intent. I just, she had the topic we were talking about. She had a lot of feelings on it."
Mm.
Um, but also, I think the thing is like remembering dynamics, and that's in that place. I had paid thousands of dollars. This was on a retreat, which made it even funkier. Is like I had paid thousands of dollars to be there to this person who then talked to me in a way that if I was home, I would have hopped in my car and drove home. Type of
Mm.
deal. I would have been like, oh, skirt, gotta go. Um, and even though you may not have that intent, like, again, kind of in the last episode, I had talked about this, like taking a beat before you respond to someone and really think about what am I wanting to convey to this person? Not just what do I want to say, but how do I want to convey it to them? Because that delivery piece is so big. And I mean, Reese and I have this conversation all the time. I'll ask him to do something, or he'll ask me to do something, and the way that he like brings it up, or the way I bring it up, it's like, hey, watch your tone.
Mhm.
Because even though it's not malicious or meant to say it in a way of aggression or to cause any, to start something that's like that delivery piece, like that dynamic.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, I mean, I think, like, what you were saying about the power and dynamic piece is also really important. I think it's really important for us coaches to remember that even if you are coaching people that you would consider peers, when you're in a coaching client dynamic, there's always a power piece. And how we show up and how we talk to our clients, how we express ourselves, the message that we're sending, either without saying anything or the way that we're saying something, matters. It matters a lot. And so to really make sure that we have good boundaries, both for ourselves and how we're talking to clients, and then also how clients are talking to us and talking to each other, I think is really important. Um, and this isn't to be like the tone police, right? Because this is also important. I know last season we talked a lot about
Yeah.
Black women and how, they get seen as aggressive and can get tone policed and things like that. This isn't what we're talking about, right? There's a difference between showing passion and being aggressive. There's a difference between being blunt and being disrespectful. There's a line. And just because you don't like what someone says doesn't mean that they were disrespectful. Um and sometimes, even if you do like the way that someone, like something that someone says, if they said it rudely, there's still a problem. So I think it's really us as like the leaders of coaching containers. I think it's really important for us to take a step back, especially if we're offended, and to really try to look through, okay, was this someone being unkind, or was this someone just being like really straight to the point? Was this malicious? Where's this going? And then responding accordingly to create safe spaces for everyone involved, but also to not stifle other people's experience, other people's opinions, just because it might not be what we like. And so I think that's a really important distinction, that saying watch your tone isn't about policing someone's voice. It's about being conscientious about how we're communicating and how what we're saying is coming off, and just being really clear with what we're trying to convey.
Yeah. And again, it's like coming back to the idea that just because it's short, like watch your tone is very short. It's very concise. And when you are someone who is delivering something like watch your tone, you also have to watch your own tone, because if you are saying it, hey, like, FYI, you're coming off a little hot and spicy. I don't know that's what you want. That compassion needs to be there, because, like, again, these sayings, they're short and concise for a reason. There were, when these sayings became a thing, dating back to our ancestors, and even looking really specifically at the origins of like slavery and the communication styles and those dynamics, like there wasn't always time for, let me give you like this 5-page essay explanation on why you shouldn't do X, Y, and Z. Sometimes it was like, hey, so-and-so is coming this way and you need to correct yourself.
Yeah.
Like, hey, like you need, like, fix your face, watch your tone, fix your logic, make it make sense, because there is something happening that if you do not correct this quickly, and if I don't communicate this to you quickly, we both could get in trouble.
Right. Yeah, it's important to really recognize that these sayings were rooted originally in survival, surviving systemic oppression, slavery, discrimination, and it really had a focus on like this community accountability, and it was just oral storytelling traditions. Like, people weren't writing this down, because when we think about like where these sayings are originally coming from, most enslaved people didn't know how to read or write, and so it's not like they could like pass notes or do things like that. They had to be able to communicate really quickly, really clearly, really concisely, like Catrice was saying, in order to stay safe in situations. And so it's just really important to recognize that these are brisk and to the point and kind of in your face, but the love underneath it is really important, like we've been talking about.
Yeah, I think they're ready for a heart check, Brianna.
Yeah. Okay. So again, I'm going to ask you guys some questions, and I would love for you guys just to kind of sit with it, take in what you need to take in, and then adjust accordingly. Okay. So what saying shaped how you think, react, or move through the world today? Which types of lessons still serve you? And which ones might feel outdated? What are some things that you can let go? When do you rely on quick wisdom instead of deeper understanding? And when do you rely on the opposite? What are things that you feel like you need to have those deeper understandings of now versus that quick wisdom? What is one phrase that you've carried that you want to redefine for yourself? And what are sayings you've been using or even abusing without cultural understanding and background? And how can you do better now that you kind of know the background and understand the history better? How can you make choices to use those sayings in maybe a more appropriate or more inclusive way?
I love it. And again, everyone, we're so glad that you're here and tuning in with us and, continuing to do the work and to learn. And we're so excited for you to listen to this next episode, because we're going to continue on this conversation and talking not just about, the sayings, but the sayings that aren't just advice, but they are inherited memories and wisdom. Thanks for tuning in.
Friends, thanks so much for joining us today.
We've loved getting to spend this time here with you, but don't let the conversation stop here. Drop us a message or connect with us on social media. All the details can be found in the show notes,
along with some great resources to help you on this journey of helping make the coaching industry more inclusive. Until next time, we're 3 Black women
and their white coach. doing the work, holding the space, and building something better.